fire operates, burn down Babylon and all them crooked ways and racial discrimination, discommunication, brutalization. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Rastafari, sit upon his throne now. Rastafari, sit upon his throne, yeah. Rastafari, sit upon his throne now, telling us to come home.
Still in. Greetings. Metamorphosis. STYLZ FM. Dr. Iman, Blak, your host. Into another month. A time for global reflections. A time for the African people to look a little bit wider than themselves. It's a time to become very, very alert to the imminent events, that when events begin to unfold, we do not appear to be stunned. The key is to remain vigilant and in a state of preparedness. The world is at a high point of conflict. And as much as we may be feeling isolated on an island in the Caribbean, the events that are happening on the other great ocean side is relevant. So in North America, Central America, and the Caribbean, South America, we are familiar with the Atlantic Ocean, and we are familiar with the nations that border this particular ocean. But there's also another great ocean on the planet called the Pacific. And there are some very dynamic and provoking events occurring along those places. The Pacific Ocean, in the continent of Asia, and particularly in the region that we call Southeast Asia. Asia, of course, is the largest continent on the planet. As much as we speak of Africa, Asia is documented according to the records to be a vaster size than even the continent of Africa. So I know we'll have to just begin to focus just a bit on what's happening in that particular region, and our African people affected, our African people spectators. Will African people be involved in the potential carnage? So the metamorphosis is going global, and looking at the international chess game. with war, nuclear war, at the top of the list. And then, of course, I have to look at our own conditions here on the island, where we're moving into a new dispensation as it relates to governance and the impotence of the political system. And it's no strong dependence on the military. And I have to wonder, are we becoming a quasi-military state? And then what then is the real relevance of a member of parliament? What is the importance of a member of parliament who governs over a garrison, for example? So the whole thing is unraveling right here. And we have to look behind not just the political machinery and their MPs, but what is the role of the custos in each parish? How does the custos relate to these events occurring? Is the custos outside of the parish? Is the custos beyond the MP? Who is this custos? And does the custos make any input into the alleviation of violence? What is the role of all of these men in each parish that are custoses? What is their role? And ultimately, who is their leader? What does the leader have to do with anything? So, metamorphosis, global and local. One brethren would call it being glocal. So, tell a friend that we're going to engage in a expose on the concept of a nuclear club. There is a nuclear club. Who are the members? How do African people relate to this club? Metamorphosis also wants to explore the concept of Judgment Day that has been heavily impressed on the consciousness of African people through religion. This day called Judgment Day, and people living in intrepid fear, deep in their subconscious mind of this end of time on the last day. What is this all about? And of course, I also want to take a slight glance at the pearly gates. What exactly are the pearly gates? Where are these gates? And who control these gates? Who set up the laws at the gate? And why is it black people spending so much time trying to get through these gates when the gates of Africa are open wide? But because the eyes are closed, we have to open it from the inside. Metamorphosis. Rastafari.
Traveling more than 2,000 miles, more than 2,000 miles. Can't get no shady tree to race, can't get no shady tree to race. The sun's so red hot, hotter than hot. Let me tell you, this is the song we were singing, coming along, oh yes, coming along, oh yes, coming along, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Wappa doody why, doody wap wap why, you wappa doody why, doody wap wap why, wappa doody why, doody wap wap why. This is the song we were singing.
Metamorphosis. Greetings and hail again. Welcoming all those who are first-time listeners and welcoming those who are vigilant in the process of transformation. And of course, the transformation always begins with the inner forces to be able to counteract and meet the outside forces. So it's about unearthing and unlearning and reconditioning and refreshing and being in a position to be in direct control of your thought processes and ultimately to be in a level of control of your emotions, because the man basically functions at one of those two levels. Some would call a third level the spiritual, but I and I are going to speak to the emotional and the intellectual. And it's these levels now that we want to be able to engage processes and learn to be able to be masters of these aspects of being, the emotions and the intellect. And once we can have some mastery over those internal forces, we also move to be in a position to learn to manipulate the powers of the imagination. All of these are energies that are from within. And so you begin to reorganize and refurbish the I, refurbish the self. And obviously you have to refurbish me, which requires a certain type of nutrition and health training and fitness and so on. So this metamorphosis now really wants to examine the world affairs and how do Africans, black people, position themselves to these events. Is it just a matter of being spectators, or are the people who are of African orientation and descent in a position to transform their own position while these events unfold? So these events now that I speak to is happening. It is contemporary, it's present. And it is not just about today, as most things have a history. And I mentioned earlier at the top of the program that there exists in the world a club that is considered to be a nuclear club. A nuclear, of course, is a high form of energy that can be most destructive as much as it can be constructive, because the energy of itself has no moral value. It is how it is used. So atomic energy can be used for what they say peaceful methods. And likewise, based upon the nature of human beings, it can also be used for war. So the atom, which is again dimension of science, have been penetrated and energies have been released in devastating forms. And the history of the earth has experiences of this type of devastation. And again, the region that is presently the hotspot, this is the same era in which the atomic bomb was released upon mankind. So we're talking about the United States of America, Caucasian people dropping a nuclear weapon, using atomic weapon on an Oriental set of people. Nagasaki, Hiroshima. So that was unheard of, that atomic weapons will be used against mankind. But it's a show of power to the level of arrogance and self-destruction, because these events tend to have repercussions. And so there is a growing development within particularly European nations to develop equally powerful nuclear weapons. And so the Russians became an important protagonist, an important agent, our country, who decided to pursue the development of nuclear weapons. The UK itself has nuclear weapons, United Kingdom. So does France. And so there is a number of countries there are really 8 sovereign states that have successfully detonated nuclear weapons. But there's an inner 5. This inner 5 now is will be considered to be nuclear states. Nuclear states. Nuclear weapon states. And these 5 are the United States, Russia, the UK, France, and China. So this is a set of countries that control a monopoly or have a monopoly over nuclear weapons and nuclear technology and the likes. There are also a few other countries that have nuclear weapons, and these include India, Pakistan, South Africa, Israel, and North Korea. Now, we have to begin to look at this whole present drama that is facing the world through some historical lens. And understanding the importance of this nuclear club and these sovereign states, it begins to give you a sort of picture as to maybe why is it that North Korea has now become the focus of the rest of the world, basically, or most of the rest of the world, and their efforts to develop nuclear weapons. Now, presently, as we are living out in this moment, there is a leader called Kim Jong-un. And he's being presented as a sort of demon. And who we have versus Kim is DJ Trump. So it's Kim versus Trump. And what it really turns out to be is that these are 2 men playing with the lives of millions and millions of people. 2 men who perhaps should just be put in a ring and told them try and fight it out in real terms and preserve the earth and its population. But it will not be so simple, because there are deeper implications to this struggle. This struggle didn't begin with Trump, and it didn't begin with Kim. We have to recognize that the land mass where these things are occurring is a peninsula called the Korean Peninsula. And this land mass is a site that had a confrontation between rivaling states, rivaling rivalries, rivaling powers. Ultimately, the peninsula was split, with the northern side being influenced greater by China, and the southern side being under the umbrella of the United States and its Western allies. So we have a situation now wherein there was a confrontation, a war between the North and the South. And they came to an ending of the war, but they never really signed an official treaty to end the war. So technically the war was never declared ended. So there's always then this tension on the peninsula between the North and the South. Now, before Trump came to office, there were presidents, Obama, and there were presidents Clinton and Bush. And there was a time during the Bush era when Bush had declared that there are 3 countries that made up what he called the axis of evil. 3 countries. And he listed them as Iran, North Korea, and Iraq. And the Americans, and we, the world, was able to see what the Americans have done to Iraq. The world has seen what Americans have been trying to do to Iran. And Iran has been in a state of resistance. And Iran has insisted that it will develop its nuclear weapons. But there's a weaker player, and this now is North Korea. And North Korea now has become, according to Washington, the greatest threat to world peace. And the United States has decided to ramp up the military pressure on this state to prevent it from developing its nuclear potential. Now, there are a lot of issues that surround this, because who is America to define who should have nuclear power or nuclear weapons? What gives America its moral rightness to define which nations can have nuclear weapons? And what makes it more intriguing is that these weapons that are being developed in North Korea doesn't have to be aimed at the United States to create any great havoc, because America has Japan and South Korea as protectorates. And they have this the island of Guam that is heavily populated by American people. So the North Koreans, in order to exact their own revenge in case of the war, will not have to fire on the United States, because the United States have to be proving that they can now defend South Korea and the Japanese. So there is a very complicated set of events evolving. The Americans have declared that there is no more time for diplomacy, and that the only option now is military. The Americans are trying to argue that it is China who must put the pressure on North Korea to get them to cease in their program. But China has its own issues, because China is a great trader with North Korea, and China doesn't really want to see the Korean regime collapse. It would create panic in North Korea. It would send refugees over into China, and it would strengthen the whole of the United States in that region. So China really don't want to see Kim Jong-un fall. So the situation is at a crisis at the moment. And it would appear that the Europeans and the Americans think that there's not much more room for any diplomatic discussion. And North Korea has launched their 6th test, and they're currently preparing to launch their 7th. Now, it is this point here now that we reach that black people must begin to become aware of what could be some of the events that may unfold. Because within the next program of the Metamorphosis, 1 week from now, somebody might just push a button. And it's about who bluffing and who not bluffing. But guess what? It's millions and millions of lives will be sacrificed. And to what event? And to whose benefit with such a nuclear war work towards? So black people know, if you check it out, there's not much presence of Africa within this makeup, but the United States has a lot of black people in their military. Who will help a black man in American military? Will these be the frontline soldiers? It's things we have to think about. We have to think about how is it African people will react to this type of potential catastrophe in the earth. Are we spectators, or are we reorganizing and preparing for our own salvation? Metamorphosis.
Boundbrook Hilltop Guest House, conveniently located at 15 Boundbrook Crescent, Port Antonio. For a large space of single and double rooms at reasonable rate, Wi-Fi, cable TV, breakfast to order, 24-hour security, CC cameras, parking, snack bar and lounge. Beautiful scenery of the Caribbean Sea. We're willing to assist with additional accommodation, such as fridge in your room, coffee machine, and so much more. Boundbrook Hilltop Guest House, proud sponsor of the Metamorphosis with Dr. Iman Blak, live on STYLZ FM, Mondays, 9 p.m. to midnight. Call Boundbrook Hilltop Guest House at 715-1644.
Yeah, the metamorphosis, looking way beyond our shores into another section of the planet, a region called Asia, Southeast Asia. And in that section of the planet, the whole region is at a very high alert. An alert that people on this side of the Atlantic Ocean may not really be able to experience. But to look at it again from a perspective of being Afrocentric, we see a small nation developing its own potential, and we see the great big police defining quality of life of other people and what is democratic and what is not democratic. It's also from the same country that we have to begin to speak about the politics of walls. And how is it that the building of these walls, this potential wall, is any different from what the South Koreans, North Koreans are trying to do for them own selves? In other words, there's a thing called sovereignty. And the United States claiming to be a sovereign nation. And with that feeling, they feel that they can build a wall as a method of keeping people out. And we find that there are some critical thinking and criticism that is required when we explore this whole behavior of the nuclear club. How is it that a country like Israel can be a member of this club? What is the basis of Israel being afforded membership in this club? And at the same time, why is the forces opposed to the Iranians developing their nuclear potential? So it's all about control, but look at the nature of the people. The Israelis and the Americans are brothers and sisters. And the Iranians and the North Koreans are coming almost from the same type of stock of people. So it is, we have to look at it also through the lens of race. And really, is it all about being superiority of a particular race over all other races? So the thing that is happening is real. And the United States military is speaking about in terms like annihilation, an overwhelming massive response, and preemptive strikes. So this is the atmosphere. And under the Trump regime, Trump said we'll see. Simple as that. And he has made it clear in his State of the Union that America from henceforth on will never reveal their military and timing in their strikes and so on. So it appears as though it is working towards a preemptive strike. But no matter how preemptive it is, the North Koreans will respond. So we have a set of men now strategizing war. And in that war is tens of thousands and perhaps millions of people will die. But according to the Americans, it's not at their home. It's not at home. So it's okay. Because all the way over the other side of the Pacific Ocean. So the Americans feel safe. The Europeans, the UK, the France, all of the members of the nuclear club, nuclear weapon states, feel safe. And the destruction, of course, will really resonate in Asia, North Korea, Japan. So I have to begin to really think deeper now into the powers that really govern this earth. And are these powers really religious? Are they spiritual? Are these powers basically military and economic? So we have to check what's happening now, because this small state, the North Koreans, they of course have some backative. And they're getting some backative from two members that are weaponized states. Their backing is coming from the Chinaman, and it's coming from the Russians. And we know that from the Cold War, the battle was always between the Americans and the Russians. So Kim has as his allies two of America's greatest enemies. He has those in his backyard. And the Americans are in a situation where they have support from the United Kingdom and Australia. And so it's a world that has been polarized along different lines. It's no longer communist versus capitalist. We even have countries like Brazil, China, Iran, that form into a set of people called, and Russia, that they call themselves BRIC, B-R-I-C, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. And so the world is undergoing some new realignments global political realignments. And the United States now appears to be the great hawk in trying to claim to be the moral policeman. But within America itself, there is no morality. What you're seeing is racism at its highest. So it's a confliction of trying to tell the world how to behave when within the country there is great divide, great social hatred. So, come next week, and on around or about when the Koreans plan their 7th attempt, it will be a decision point for the United States and the UK. Because within their own egos, because it has come down to ego, within their egos, they are going to be feeling more embarrassment. That's the word they use. More embarrassment if the Koreans was to fire one more missile. And this other missile is already in the making. So the scenario is unfolding. And we have to begin to think about what would be the implications of such a catastrophe and our lives here, even in a place like Jamaica. What will happen to lines of communication and supplies and certain types of equipment and who to know materials? We have to begin to think within our own black consciousness. And let us not be caught off guard, because these things are not far-fetched. And the elements in the White House are proving itself to be unstable. And is accusing the leadership of Korea for being also unstable. So when you have these two perceived unstable leaders with their fingers near or around nuclear weapons, the world is no longer a safe place. And African people from the 1830s experiencing this emancipation have been under the whip of all of these countries that are now involved in this catastrophe in the making. So we have to use this time to withdraw ourselves and organize under the principles of black empowerment and self-reliance and the principles of our own prophets to steer our own way through this mess that is on the horizon. Metamorphosis. there, the Pacific theater of war is what is unfolding. The Pacific theater of war. And the South Koreans, they want to, what they call, punish North Korea. And their way of punishing North Korea now is by having United States aircraft carriers and nuclear submarines in and around the waters. That is their suggestion towards how to punish North Korea for their act of violating the international regulations that they must cease their nuclear program. The Americans earlier today also claimed that the North Koreans are begging for war. So they are setting the environment, creating that atmosphere that the public will not feel as though something has gone against the grain. And the media is pumping it that there's only one solution. And that solution is no longer diplomatic. That has been taken off the table. So the theater now has many, many players in it. And again, on the side of the North Koreans, besides China, who doesn't argue for any regime change, there is Russia. And the Russian border is not as long, 17, 20 miles perhaps the longest. But the Russians also are very interested in protecting their own borders from the influence of the United States. And they see that if North Korea was to fall and South Korea was to advance its issue into the north, it was really like the United States creeping onto the border of Russia and China. And so that's not a very comfortable position for the Russians to have their greatest rival on their own border. So it's a highly complex situation that apparently has gone beyond logic and reasoning, that rests strictly with emotions and egos. And with all of that now, it is the lives of millions of people that will perish. None of these men will expose themselves to the nuclear weapons and the dangers of fallout and all of these things. It is the populations who are just normal, natural people. So it's coming like we have to find a way to get rid of these so-called bleeders who pretend to be leaders. So I just suggesting to the one them out there that we need to be very aware of events as they unfold, as they will call it, breaking news. And the nuclear club, interestingly, have two countries that have their own conflicts, grounded oftentimes in religion. And this is now India and Pakistan. And right now the Russians and the Iranians are working in collaboration more with the Indians. And the United States are trying to create allies with the Indians and have isolated Pakistan. But these are nuclear forces. But somehow they don't seem to be a problematic in the way Iran and North Korea is. Not so sure why is it they can be nuclear powers and America and the other nations don't really harass them. So it's a matter of who dominates and who rules the world, and the rule of the world tries to have the greatest power, and not just in finances, but in military and scientific methodologies. So as we watch, we must also prepare. And as African people now, we must draw inspiration from even the behavior of a man like him, who can face the white man straight in his eyes and tell him, say, I'm going to do what I'm going to do for his own people. So it's that type of confidence. Some call it arrogance. But as a man who defending himself from the position of his race first, because the Oriental man is not a Caucasian. Oriental man is what he is. He's considered to be a yellow-skinned man, a man of melanin. And so he fights on a different basis. He has a different cultural awareness. So this struggle that is moving towards being resolved through nuclear, and there's no resolution. It means massive death on the planet. But to those who orchestrate it, it also means making money. Because they have the thing what they call no rebuilding. That's what they did to Japan. The Americans wiped them out with a nuclear bomb and then spend money rebuilding them and capture the society. So if we watch what's going on and pay attention and ask ourselves, where is Africa? Where are African people within this movement? How do I and I organize ourselves to have power? How do we develop military power? How do we develop economic power? The first stage for African people is to develop the power over the self, regain control of the I, disband those kind of concepts of the ego. And it's about reparations of the psychic mind of African people. I've used the period to repair mentality, repair our consciousness. That fragmented I must find itself through the integration of the me, myself, and I. Metamorphosis.
planning a party, club night out, stage show, a gospel concert, or even a business sales event? Let STYLZ FM be a part of your promoting tool. Take advantage of our low-priced promotion packages with commercials, interviews, giveaways, reviews, and much more. We have special offers when you mix and match and bundle your options. Contact us at 876-286-9216 or 439-5160. STYLZ FM for the most effective way to exploit your marketing dollar.
This feeling is taking over me. I'm so excited.
Feel the euphoria.
Tuesdays from 5 to 9 p.m. with the Master Mixer Musical Maestro Digital Team.
Giving a total satisfaction with melodies and memories by the score. With the widest selection of genres and hits. So you don't know that program you turn up, you know. So you know Patek's a full dance, the one you slap with.
Digital and we are party. Yeah, we flawless. Euphoria the program. Every Tuesday.
5 to 9, every Tuesday.
With the Musical Maestro Digital Team.
La Best Sports Bar, proud sponsor of Euphoria with the musical ingenious Digital Tea, Tuesdays 5 to 9 p.m.
For the best quality in sound reinforcement and backlining, native audio. We have professional engineers with over 20 years of experience. So call us and we'll take care of your parties, wedding receptions, barbecues, conferences, and small stage shows. Crystal clear sound, native audio. Our prices are the best. Call us at 871-5212. That's 871-5212. Native audio. We make your events audible.
Boundbrook Hilltop Guest House, conveniently located at 15 Boundbrook Crescent, Port Antonio. For a large space of single and double rooms at reasonable rate, Wi-Fi, cable TV, breakfast to order, 24-hour security, CC cameras, parking, snack bar and lounge. Beautiful scenery of the Caribbean Sea. We're willing to assist with additional accommodation, such as fridge in your room, coffee machine, and so much more. Boundbrook Hilltop Guest House, proud sponsor of the Metamorphosis with Dr. Iman Blak, live on STYLZ FM, Mondays, 9 p.m. to midnight. Call Boundbrook Hilltop Guest House at 715-1644.
Mr. Altibulan, where we examine our story, Kimit, the blackness of our being. And we also recognize the gateway to resurrection and restoration through ancient culture of ancient Egypt and Ethiopia. Now, we can speak of a time when man had also known of atomic energy. So the atomic energy is not a European discovery. That is original. Using science, the ancient Egyptians were able to construct on this here planet some of the mightiest stone monuments that are still standing, that are able to withstand time. So when we talk about buildings and construction and engineering, we do not look at the Empire State Building and the World Trade Center and these various erect monuments that are straight up in the sky. We have to look at the monuments on the planet that have overcome thousands of years and still maintain their precision based upon the amount of physics and mathematics that went into the construction. Now, building walls has become topical in the modern time as we experience the type of leadership that we are seeing in the United States. And walls now can be defensive, and walls can also be divisive. And we look into the history of the earth, and we look at the construction of great walls. There was a Great Wall of China, 5,500 miles in length, considered to be the longest man-made construction. Set up fortifications to keep out alien cultures, basically, and to create an environment where the people would be simply amongst themselves and learn to depend and rely upon themselves. So the Great Wall of China, evidence of tremendous construction skills. In Africa, of course, there are great walls. The Great Walls of Benin, built like a fortress. There are also the great walls of Zimbabwe. And then there are the great constructions of stone in ancient Egypt and in Sudan. So what you find that by looking through the lens of construction and engineering, we realize that the Africans were far advanced within the discipline of mathematics and physics and construction, and able to do and put up monuments that are still standing. Within the context of walls being used as political tools, one of the most obvious walls that was constructed as a political tool of division was the Berlin Wall. And the Berlin Wall was constructed to divide the people of Germany between East and West. At the time, East mean Russian and West meaning American and European. So this great wall that was put up in Germany, the Berlin Wall, was a great divider, separating people from their own kind, separating families, creating death at the border with people trying to cross over for various reasons. So that's a divisive wall. Unlike the Great Wall of China, which is more to defend. And so it is with the constructions in ancient Africa. Now we hear that there's another wall now being proposed. This wall now is the Trump wall. And realize a little bit about, just retreating a bit about the Berlin Wall. The Berlin Wall was a sign of separation between the East and the West in their political ideologies. And in 1989, 1990, that wall came down through the power of the people. And of course, they were highly influenced by the Americans and by the Vatican. So we find that now in this time, there is a proposition now for the construction of another wall. And this wall has some of the same traits and attributes of the Berlin Wall. It's about dividing and separating people under the guise of security. So we have to check now the times that we are in and the politics of walls. And how is it that the leadership of the United States now can be promoting this type of philosophy, and yet all the way over in Southeast Asia, this is the same set of men who are trying to tell some people of a different culture what they should do as a priority, how should they pursue their scientific evolution, what should be their agenda, on what basis. Iman don't see it yet. But all revolves around the concept, ultimately, of white domination, of the Caucasian wanting to be dominant, and of presenting European and American culture as the ideal. African people must pay attention, because being spectators is not sufficient. It's time to regroup and rethink and reposition self within our own blackness, because it's not going to be easier. There is going to be war. There is no retreat. And the Americans say they do not intend to, and the Koreans say they do not intend to surrender. So it's all on the table. Next week, this time is September 11th. The Americans are cynical. They will try to celebrate. We are watching.
Economic liberation is a duty I owe to posterity. Great Zimbabwe stands, ancient rock solid firm. Come now, Jacob go down. Great Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls. When they saw Zimbabwe walls, they said it was the foundation. They said it was a Syrian. They said it was a Chinese. When they saw Zimbabwe wall, they said it came from the Iberian. We know it is 100% African. Naga naga na Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls. So who your Vasco de Gama be? So who Prince Henry the Navigator be? So who was yours? So Walter Raleigh. So who was Amerigo Vespucci? Some kind of Johnny come lately, talking about them make some kind of discovery. Iman is the living anthropology. Iman is the living archaeology. Yaga yaga yo, Zimbabwe wall, great Zimbabwe wall, Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls. When they built up the Aswan Dam, it was the Western archaeologists' plan to flood with historical Sudanese land. Afraid of the glory of the Nubian, afraid you will see your connection. Yaga to Zimbabwe, great Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls. you're Vasco de Gama be? So who Prince Henry, your navigator be? So who was your Sir Walter Raleigh? So who your Christopher Columbus? Iman is the living archaeology. Them talking about them make some kind of discovery. Iman is the living anthropology. Zimbabwe come now stand firm. Yeah. Zimbabwe wants, great Zimbabwe wants, great Zimbabwe wants, great Zimbabwe wants. Corresponding mathematical, elliptical constants in Egypt, Axum, Zimbabwe and Mexico. Hey, African botanical strains of cotton and corn in America and yeah. We can trace our steps through botany and etymology. You can't hide the truth forever from me. Can't hide the truth forever from me. Yeah, where me mess with, what is revealed is only right and true. We are standing on the soil that made you. Are you standing on the soil that made you? Are you standing on the soil that made you? Yeah, are you standing? Zimbabwe wants, great Zimbabwe wants, great Zimbabwe.
As we continue to just sort of look into the powers of Alkebulan and the Kemetic people, we have to look at this field of construction, this field of architecture, and realize the greatness of African people by the monuments that are still standing. There is a monument, there's a set of mathematical layouts and earthworks that are longer than the Great Wall of China. And this can be found in Nigeria, in Benin City. And Benin City was one of the best planned cities in the world, when London was a place of thievery and murder. So, when we talk about the walls of Benin, it's thing that I and I must begin to examine. The great amount of mathematics and scientific thought that went into this construction. So it's not just in ancient Egypt, it's also in Nigeria, it's in Southern Africa, it's in Zimbabwe, it's all across the continent. We're seeing the remnants of the power of the African thought in engineering, physics, and mathematics. They tell us that the pyramids were built by slaves, but that is not possible. It's too perfect, too exact for slaves to create such a production. So the slave concept of building the pyramids is what they projected us through the movies. That is Warner Brother and MGM. It took skilled soldiers and high levels of technology and physics and maths to move rocks in those precise ways. Slaves don't have that type of tolerance and don't have that type of attitude for perfection. So the greatness of I and I is within our own makeup. We are scientists. We're not players and sports persons only. We are scientists. We are engineers. We are physicists, mathematicians. These are natural philosophies that I and I used to engage in. So we use this section of the program to remind ourselves of how great we are. And that the greatness can only be reflected when we begin to internalize our story, that we can manifest our behavior in the present that is glorious. So when we begin to speak about the reason for Jamaica's state of military occupation, you're going to see that perhaps it's because I and I as a people, we're not communicating enough amongst our own selves in that glorious way. We're promoting a kind of barbaric type of living, which is more promoting death. So African continent, Alkebulan, the Kemetic people. We are engineers. We are scientists. Our greatness didn't come because we were religious. And our greatness didn't come because we were spiritual. It came because we were scientific and practical and political and economic and able to combine the sciences, able to understand the forces of nature and to organize to be in unity with our environment. So, Alkebulan, Kemet, our story, Metamorphosis.
Afrika dafa baxna ki dafa ñaan ki dafa rafet won ma ci ki bunjul ki dafa bunjul wan ñaan de kessa way ki dafa bunjul won ma ci ki bunjul ki dafa bunjul daf leen rafet yow men tamé ndax ngama daf leen rafet yow men tamé ndax ngara daf leen rafet yow men tamé ndax ngara did you know that's a richer Africa did you know that's a richer Africa did you know said the whole world love it, did you know? Said the whole world love it. Be proud of your culture. Be proud of that what you got. Be proud, you got to hold on to it. Be proud of your culture. Walking on the road in a Germany, reggae music playing, and this is what one man was saying. Was ist denn das? Was ich höre? Ich kann nicht anders. Muss einfach tanzen. Ich stimme der Reggae, manchmal macht man ein bisschen lauter. Niemals in meinem Leben habe ich so etwas gehört. Meine Damen und Herren und alle Brüder und Schwestern, ich muss euch jetzt verlassen, weil ich fliege nach Jamaika. Tschüss, bis bald, ich komme irgendwann wieder. Es macht mich Spaß, es gibt mir Kraft und Energie wie ein Tiger. Es macht mich Spaß, es gibt mir Kraft und Energie wie ein Tiger. Did you know? That's a richer Germany, did you know?
So the WhatsApp is up and running. And we have a comment here. The person says that the white man has committed some of the worst atrocities known to man to establish his world. Then he creates law to keep others from taking his world. So when he sees others creating weapons, he gets nervous. His nervousness comes from a kind of insecurity. He's always worried that the nations he has wronged will get back at him. No name, but the message is clear. Metamorphosis.
Be proud of that what you got. Be proud, you got to hold on to it. Be proud of your culture. France is a country, reggae music is ruling. Anywhere you go, you hear the people, them all singing. J'aime la Jamaïque, ce bel pays. Un peu sa musique fantastique. J'espère que le reggae va rester avec un nous pour toujours. Be proud of your culture. Be proud of that what you got. Be proud.
Negro men, come away from the Mississippi. A Negro man, come away from the sinking sand. Negro man, come away from the Mississippi. Negro man, come away from the sinking sand. For the road and the river just keep rolling. sighing, old man river, just keep rolling along, yeah, along. Say you keep on rolling, go old man river, yes, old man river, yes, old man river. Keep on rolling down, rolling down, yeah, a Negro man, come away from the Mississippi. A Negro man, I come away from the sinking sand. A Negro man, I come away from the Mississippi. A Negro man, I come away from the sinking sand. For the rolling river, just keep rolling. Oh, that river.
Yes, I really want the ones and ones to do their own little bit of searching into the great walls of Benin, Benin, because they only full up our brains with the Great Wall of China. And so we have a sort of respect for Chinaman just based upon that feat of engineering. But the walls of Benin, you know, it was used as a defense of that historical city called Benin City, formerly of the Kingdom of Benin, and now the capital of the present-day Edo state of Nigeria. The walls of Benin are considered to be the largest man-made structure lengthwise and hailed as the largest earthwork in the world. So, this is African people building these things now, you know. This is African people, and this thing is 4 times longer than the Great Wall of China. The walls of Benin. How many people knew about the walls of Benin? Built by African engineers. 4 times longer than the Great Wall of China. A combination of ramparts and moats. That means to call it Aya. So, we are, as African people, we know how to build. We know how to build walls. Walls to protect us. But in the present dispensation now, we see walls going up as a method, a political tool of division. So how can I say again that I am promoting world peace by knocking against nuclear weapons when within my own borders there's promotion of a wall to separate nations that have been coexisting for centuries? So it's a matter of awakening to the double talk, and realize that we have walls that divide, and we have walls that protect. And you can see the intention in the construction. So it's a time for waking up and looking at the world through the lens of beyond your own scope. We have to look at through the lens of power politics and the intention of white domination to carry itself right across the globe using military and nuclear weapons now as the beating stick. So African people now, we don't hear any African nation making any input into this confrontation. Nobody wants to take sides. Everybody afraid to offend the great US of A. But the world is at a risk because the present occupant of the White House obviously has proven to be quite unstable. And it's in this unstable condition now that the globe is in, that black people must ask themselves, are we going to join the instability? Or are we going to find a way to stabilize our own selves and create our own agenda? Move towards securing power getting rid of the false landowners and begin to claim property. So it's a moment of reflection that was needed, not just globally now, but also within the own self, what we call a moment of introspection. So I've watched the world and watched Kim Jong, and watched Donald Trump, and there's something that's going to happen very shortly, because it's getting to the point wherein there is no more room for dialogue, and the Americans and their ego are unwilling to take a step back. The solution to this, partly, is for Trump to step back. Can Trump step back? Can the American military complex find the compassion for humankind to step back from this posture? Can there be any room for any new member of the nuclear club? So we have to look at the options still beyond the catastrophe and realize that it's just men and their egos that are bringing the world to the brink of destruction. And in this position now, prayers really don't seem to provide any solution. Trump swore on the Bible, so he believes in God. And it is his belief that is moving him in his own behavior. So all black people have to examine what is the nature of the God that Trump prays to. Is that the same God that we speak to? And also protect us from white man domination? Metamorphosis.
Like a beautiful stream. Hey, hey, it's here in this world and it's reigning supreme. Because of this something that keeps on glittering. Because of this something, so many people are fighting. Knowledge and wisdom will lead us to freedom. Hey, hey, let us seek first the heavenly kingdom. Because of this something that keeps on glittering. Because of this something, so many people are fighting. Because of this something that keeps on glittering. Because of this something, so many people are fighting. Sodom and Gomorrah, we don't wanna see. Mama world empire. See the world turn into a cemetery. Don't wanna see the world turn into a cemetery. Because of this something that keeps on glittering. Because of this something, so many people are fighting. Because of this something that keeps on glittering. Because of this something, so many people are fighting.
condition. Little young babies are suffering from malnutrition. And I say that we don't want no nuclear war. With nuclear war, we won't get far. No, I say that we don't want no nuclear war. With a nuclear war, we won't get far. So no, just another Holocaust. Yeah, another Holocaust. Can you take another Holocaust? I can't take no more. Said I can't take no more. I can't take no more. I saw World War I, where lots of trouble begun. I saw World War II, when the pirates came right through. Looking for World War III, but you got to set me free. Free from the chains and this your misery. 'Cause I say that we don't want no nuclear war. With nuclear war, we won't get far. I say that we don't want no nuclear war. With nuclear war, we won't get far. No, just another Holocaust. Oh, another Holocaust. Can you take another Holocaust? Then we can't take no more. We can't take no more. We can't take it no more. Unemployment, I say the rate is high. So much say the people, I'm sure they're gonna die. So much mad people getting ready to explode. Want somebody come help them carry this load. And I say that we don't want no nuclear war. No, with nuclear war we won't get far. I say that we don't want no nuclear war. With nuclear war we won't get far. No, just another Holocaust.
Yeah, another Holocaust on the horizon. This one more global than ever. Peter Touch, haunting sounds. Long time the man them are prepared for this nuclear thing, you know. Long time the man them dealing with methods of reducing the world's population. Them say 7 billion and it's too many. They have had all different types of wars to reduce the population. This is the agenda of the white man. Biological warfare has been a major weapon of war against people of African descent and otherwise. Ebola, Chick V, Zika, you name it. Biological warfare. This is now escalation to the level of nuclear war. And in nuclear war, it's just about another Holocaust. Listen to Touch again.
They can't take no more. They can't take no more. They can't take no. They can't take no more. They can't take no more. Right, say they can't take no more. They can't take no more. They can't.
why don't these guys just awaken out of their illusions of grandeur? Realize what is it they are trying to do? They are trying to destroy the earth. But they're not really trying to destroy the earth, you know. They just want to destroy places that they don't live. Not realizing that the earth is one body. When you damage one section of the earth, there's going to be repercussions on the other section of the earth. Even within the environ, because there is a mental environ. We talk about environmental conditions. There's a reality to the environs. And so the release of these chemicals and levels of radiation will spread. And it's not just about Southeast Asia. It will spread through the globe. And the food will be infected. All sorts of tribulations on the earth. And it's all brought about by these men who call themselves superior, telling us that they are the highest form of life on the earth because they have the power to destroy. So apparently destructiveness is a sign of your high sense of being on the top of the ladder. But it's proven to be your own detriment, because right now the earth will rebel. And when the earth rebels, we see things like floods, and we see fires, and we have to look at things right in front of our face, like what's happening in Houston and what's happening in California. We're in one extreme to the other extreme. One place being burnt out, the next place the people them drowning out. This is nature rebelling, you know, nature. And nature is alive. So when these men fire up them weapons of mass destruction all around the planet, all underground and above in the atmosphere, earth get vexed. And when earth get vexed and earth start belch and release gas and certain things, it's the same people that we roll up and down. So I say, black people, let us be very cognizant, especially those who align themselves with these political tribes on the local level and within each nation state, and see if those forces are bringing benefits to I, or are these forces part of the destruction that we see being professed now throughout the earth. So there's a war thing going on. There was World War I, World War II, and we are at the cusp of World War III. This time it won't be a European World War, or a war within just amongst Europeans. The Europeans are going to bring the Asians into this struggle now, conflict. And within the American forces now, enough black men involved in the American army. Can you imagine enough black men there Guam? So, you know, the thing going to get away. Thing going to get away. And you're going to see who will suffer. And who shall prosper and who shall benefit. Because there are those who think that there is benefit in war. Benefit in mass destruction. Because the industries of war also have its associates, which is the pharmaceuticals. So we have to watch what's going on and stay alert and become more Afrocentric. Begin thinking about really the importance of really planting our own food. Because maybe soon we'll be threatened with radioactive food coming from different places. So it's not simple, but the media will not tell us directly, so we have to think it out ourselves. In the same way them predict the probability of hurricanes and storms, we have to also be that predictable in our own thinking, that we can look ahead and make intelligent assumptions and look at the possibilities and organize yourself, organize your food, and deal with our security issues and governance and them kind of things, because the times are crucial. Metamorphosis.
Eternity is a temptation of time. To dance is to be master of time. His pleasure is to control mind. Universal remedy, cure for you and cure for me. Universal remedy, cure for you and cure for me. Doctor Strange. a treacherous thing. Souvenirs and golden rings. His life is an exhibition to death. With all those arrows and knives and hatchets, machetes hanging there on the wall. Talking gongs and instruments used for divination. Silent statue chiseling strokes of charity. Dr. Street is the one you get to meet. Whoa. Dr. Street is the one you get to meet. Whoa, yeah, yeah. Dr. Street is the one you get to meet. Whoa. Dr. Street is the one you get to meet. Whoa. Time is settled down by ruins. Rusty rat and river trout. His world is full of fetish forest. Dusty museum of life. Shadows of jawbone sticking to a lazy silver spoon. Hazy brown eyes echoing with laughter. Dr. Street is the one you get to meet. Whoa. Dr. Street is the one you get to meet. Whoa, yeah, yeah. Dr. Street is the one you get to meet. Whoa. Dr. Street is the one you get to meet. Whoa, yeah, yeah. Come on, my ginger girl. There is a rocky, rugged road to go. Come on, my ginger girl. There is a rocky, rugged road to go. Beside your journey from the plains of the no man.
Now, as the world moves towards this conflict and crisis, there are some who are of a different persuasion in their observation and analysis. There are people who have been steeped in the Bible and steeped into religion, and therefore events that happen in the earth, they think that it can be explained and interpreted through what the Bible says. So we have people now who are looking onto the world and telling you that, well, all that is happening was prophesied. And of course now them draw upon the King James book now to justify these type of pronouncements. Well, in a nutshell, you know, most of these Bible-trained minds have into their thinking and their belief system an idea of a judgment and the end of time and that the world would end. And not only will the world end, they also are caught up into the fantasy that some people will be transported off the earth and go up into a different zone in the heavens, and they will be relieved of the anger, the frustration and the thing of living on this earth. Now we have to think again and begin to think critically about some of these pronouncements coming from the biblical world. Because the biblical world now has apparently no connection to the world of economics and power and military and those realities. It seems to be grounded in a kind of belief and a fantasy. So there's this idea being promoted through the religions and the Bible teaching that there is a judgment day. A day when the Lord, as the Lord has ordered, that is going to be a final judgment. It's in the very last things that happen before God destroys the whole heaven and the whole earth. So there are people who think that the whole earth will be destroyed. And in this destruction now, there's going to be this judgment. And it's going to happen one day. And they're going to call it a judgment day. And now the expectation is that this one day will come one day. And this idea was not an idea amongst the very ancient of our cultures. This idea came about since the coming of the Jesus. Because it is the argument about the judgment day is attributed mainly to arguments presented by the Jesus. So, in the book of Matthew, they quote Jesus as saying, every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give account thereof in the day of judgment. Matthew 12:36. So before the Jesus was introduced to the black people, we had no such idea about any judgment day. We had no such concept of the end of the world. Because the African and the people of black culture, they had a different concept about life and death and infinity and immortality. So this judgment day thing now become a day of terror. And they've introduced it as a scare tactics to keep black people paranoid. And so in every event, world event, as governments change and the world undergo its own political evolution, the religious leaders jump on it and point out that the world is coming to an end. But we realize that this is a political strategy. And it was a part of African consciousness, this notion of a judgment day. What was very obvious to Africans is that every day was a day when you had to exercise good judgment. Every day was judgment day. And if you were to err in your judgment, you would feel pain. So a simple task like crossing the street requires judgment. And if you err in that judgment, car lick you down. And that would be your judgment day. So it has been projected to us through Bible and religion as a day to fear. One more fear in the meditation of black people. There have been so many fears. The fear of the devil, the fear of God, the fear of fear itself, and now the fear of judgment day. So we have to shake out them kind of system there what I was thinking and realize that every day is another day. And there is no 24-hour period wherein all that people have done in the millions of years that has gone previously, there will be this great day when all souls will reappear. These are fantasies. This is not based in reality. This has no scientific foundation. And it is further complicated by telling people that they must be able to enter the pearly gates. Now what the heck are the pearly gates? Some imaginary path to lead one into the promised land. And at these pearly gates, of course, there's a guardian. And the guardian is a white man with a beard. So you can show your ID card and show your status, how much money you earn. Because if you're poor, you can't get in there, you know. Not a place for poor people. It's not a place for black people, you know. So we have to abandon all them intentions and ambitions to go through no pearly gates. We have to release ourselves of the fear of this judgment day and realize that every day is a day to be conscious. Every day is a day to be creative. Every day is a day to be productive. Metamorphosis.
Don't you rock my boat, cause I don't want my boat to be rocking. Oh please, don't you rock my boat, no, cause I don't want my boat to be rocking. I'm telling you that, oh, I you see what you've done for me? Oh, I'm happy inside all of the time. Oh, when we bend the new corners, I feel like a sweepstake winner. When I meet you around the corner, you make me feel like a sweepstake winner. Watch out, can't you see? You must believe me. Oh, darling, darling, I'm calling, calling. Can't you see? Why won't you believe me? Oh, darling, darling, I'm calling, calling. When I meet you around the corner, oh, I said, baby, never let me be alone.
Now we have to think carefully now about this concept of the end of the world, you know. And then we have to see whether the end of the world is the same thing as the end of the life on the planet Earth. And is the world really the entire planet Earth as they speak to it? Because the planet Earth, you know, is a very serious plant. It's alive. And there are life forms from the depth of the ocean to the highest mountain top. So within this framework on this planet are beings called humankinds who are creating havoc by manufacturing weapons of destruction. And their intent is to manipulate and control the environment and to transform other life forms and beings into slaves. So they preach this notion of the end of the world. But I said to them now that there is no end to the planet. The end of the planet we can only come about when the Almighty Sun, S-U-N of God, ceases to shine. When there's no more Son of God, that means the Father gone, has removed himself, God, there's no more Son. And the Mother now has taken herself away. So when there's no more physical sun to give us radiation and energy, then our life on this planet will become frozen. And like the planets that are being explored, where it's basically cold, there's no sign of life on the surface. So the ancients again always worship the Almighty Son of God, the S-U-N of God. Not the transfigured S-U-N that was made into a S-O-N and put in front of black people for worship. So when we see ourselves as original people, there is no end to the world. What we see end to are systems of governance. Systems of governance. We see the fall of the Atlantean Empire. We see the fall of the ancient Egyptians, Ethiopians, the fall of the Greeks, the fall of the Romans. And the people during this era could easily be convinced that the world was ending because an empire was in collapse. And so the residents must feel as though the world is ending. But it's not the whole world. It's the governance of the dominant societies. And so Rome fell. England, Great Britain fell from her throne. And the Americans are now falling. And so the people in America now are in a total panic because they think that their world is crumbling. It's not the whole world. It is the world that was created by those men that has become a situation now where the empire now is exhausted. So empires rise and empires fall. And within the great US of A, we see the decline, we see the implosion, we see the racial separation, we see the destruction of our empire. We see the leadership that is carrying America to its lowest level, dissociating America from its allies, isolating America, and leading America to a path where in another decade, America will rank third or fourth as a world power. So it's just a decline within governance. The world is not ending. Empires are ending and empires are rising. The Chinese are on the horizon. The Indians are in the background. Other races are preparing themselves to occupy center stage. What say the Africans? What say the black people in preparing and positioning themselves to be part of the leadership of the new world order? Because it's obvious that the UK and the US are on the end point. Brexit will bring Britain to its end. And likewise, this foray into Southeast Asia under the misleadership of the DJ T-Rump will bring America to its knees. The world is not ending. It is systems of governance that end. Metamorphosis. Jamax asking, what do the people say now? Who say USA? Who say Africa? Yeah. Who says USA? And who say Africa? Coming down to that. Then they add more drama to the end of the world. They speak of a thing called a rapture. Now, as far as I know, there is a man on the earth in America named Elon Musk. Elon Musk has a mission, a vision of getting people to Mars. And perhaps this is the rapture. This is the capture of people who want to be colonists on the planet Mars. That could be the rapture. But otherwise, everything are going right here, so let us keep focus on Africa.
and still I have to carry on. I'm coming home. No more will I roam. Yes, I'm coming home. No more will I roam. I'm coming.
Metamorphosis going through. Again, he'll up Jamax. And that idea that we have to begin to ask ourselves now, is the USA going to be the center for desires and our view as the land of opportunity? Will it continue to be the land of opportunity? And what is an opportunity when it's faced with racism? So even all those questions have to be answered, you know. Because people are still rushing into America as the land of opportunity. But those things that were once opportunities are now being diminished and are being hidden away. And so the land is no longer what it used to be. It's now a land of great anxiety. A land where bigotry and overt racism is now acceptable. Because the example now is being set from the highest office, which is the White House. So black people must realize within even the North American plantation, identity now becomes more vital to rally around. Because rallying around being an American is not constructive anymore. You have to begin to rally around your blackness. Yeah, the blackness and the African as a homeland. So those are the aspects of ourself that we have to reconstruct. But right here now on Jamaica plantation now, the issue becomes a little bit more complicated. Because I know faced with a condition that has been brought on by those who are considered to be the leaders. And that condition has reached a stage now wherein those who are in the governance have decided that military force is their only solution. They have called upon divine intervention, but with no great result. And so they have turned to what Trump has used and is using, which is force. Now, an island like this, a small island like this, when the population is undergoing such lethal attacks from weapons that are not manufactured on the island, that means these weapons are brought in from outside Jamaica, brought into our shores, it's getting through our borders. And those who govern, rather than addressing the source, are trying to put a band-aid on the cut. And this attempt now is not an attempt that will bring any long-term solution. Because, for example, you have a 72-hour drag net on an area. What happens to that area 1 week later? What will happen to those elements who took themselves away? As we say, take with themselves. 3 weeks later, will they resurface? And what will have been the achievement from the first dragnet? So we have to ask now, what is really the objective behind this creation of the government of these areas that they're now calling zones of special operation, ZOSO? How does that bring greater security to the population? And what about the leadership of these regions now? Because we have to check the political leadership. Each of these areas have a member of parliament. And if the member of parliament is unable to organize and motivate the people of his constituency to put down violence, then what is his function or her function in the real scheme of things? So it seems as though the political directorate no longer has an influence over the behavior of their constituents. And the only way to address this now is by bringing in greater force beyond what the police can deal with. So we're seeing a sort of handover of power, more power to the military in trying to curb this violence in the society. And the violence is not coming necessarily from the top, but violence tends to come from the base. And in the base of these communities is deep unemployment and hopelessness, a certain amount of lacking in resources that is being overlooked. And there's no solution unless we deal with the root of the problem. And so if there's an MP who, in a region that has a garrison, on what basis does this MP hold on to power? What is his basis? If within his own or her own constituency, there's a state or a garrison that is run by a different set of men under violence. Years ago, it took the American government to remove Dudu Coke and to dismantle the state of Tivoli. That was a state within Jamaica. So we have to watch all the thing unfolding and check if those who govern really have them finger on the pulse beat of the nation. And ask questions like if the MP can contribute to the spiraling downward of the violence. What is the role of the custos? I'm asking now because it's desperate times. What is the role of the custos in his parish? How does he help to reduce violence? Who does he have any responsibility for? Because these men are collecting. These men are living off the land. They're living off the state. They're living off taxpayers' money. So these zones now are going to show up the weakness in the political leadership, but it's also exposing another set of governance, which is governed by the Governor General. Because he has his agents in every parish, but yet these agents don't seem to make any contribution at all to the safety and the maintenance of our society. So it appears to be redundant. Yeah, these offices seem to be redundant. And in order to get to the politicians who are really responsible for it, we may have to remove their protection. Your protection is the Governor General and his cadre of workers in each parish who wants trim down the machinery, trim down, take out some of the fat, and see if we can really come down to identifying what is the real relationship now between the politicians and these communities. Because these communities must be getting some support from the political governance. And ultimately now, it is the population who suffers, who has the inconvenience of having their rights being sometimes stifled, sometimes being frustrated, all in the name of security. So there's things we have to look at carefully now in Jamaica. And I'm on questioning the need and the nature of the custos in each parish as it relates to violence and the role of the Governor General in the whole scheme of things. We know that if the Governor General gives the okay for the troops to come out on the street. So is it that we have to begin to speak to the Governor General about violence and not the Prime Minister? Is it that we must begin to address all our concerns now to the Governor General? Because if the military is going to be the solution, we have to talk to the Governor General. And then what role then the Prime Minister plays in the whole scheme. In other words, we have to check them two houses there. We have to check the King's House and the Jamaica House. And we have to check the men them who go into Garden House. And see what is it these men are doing, why this society is suffering the way it is suffering in these ways. So we have to look on Jamaica carefully now with these new zones, because I'm gonna wonder when they may bring the zone to which part I live. When I will get up one morning and hear a boy, I can't come out. What does it really mean? And is it that the rights of the society now is being sacrificed and we can't see the end result? How do you announce where you're going to create the curfew before you go there? How do you announce how long it's going to last? And if you do those things, how can it be effective? So I don't want things to Salt Spring is a little trial run. People think that the government should have gone into a JLP stronghold first. So the whole thing is already being politicized. And the essence of the thing is about how to reduce the level of violence, which begins at the individual level, which begins at the level of the family, which begins at the level of the community. And much of it is determined by economics. Because when a man or a woman can be gainfully employed, there is no time to engage in violence or criminal activity. So ultimately the solution doesn't rest in more violence and brute force. It rests in a transformation into the organization of a movement like We the People movement. That it will give the people an alternative now to PNP and JLP. Because that's what the people are tired of. I'm tired of the tribalism, the tribal politics, tired of the corruption. And there's time for a new dispensation, one that will reflect the will of the people. And the people meaning the vast majority of black population, the disenchanted, those who are descendants of the emancipated people, still floundering around, still making up the majority of these communities that they call inner cities and ghettos, still short of land. So the whole thing needs an upheaval. And it's going to be a revolution in thinking before the people get practical and physical according to how the state conducts itself. Metamorphosis.
A funeral. I don't wanna be no general to achieve only a burial. Oh no, Lordy, Lordy, Lord knows, yeah. Oh no, whoa, yeah. Oh no. I said the race is not for the swift, but for who can endure it. The race is not for the swift, but for who can endure it. So you ride like lightning, you'll crash like thunder. Crash on there. Say you ride like lightning, you'll crash like thunder. Yeah, I said you know, you know, you know, you know, you know. I said you know. chemistry. Say the rankings they all get spanking. The rankings they all get spanking. Top rankings they all get spanking. Yes, rankings they all get spanking. On the banking. Oh yes, on the banking. Whoa now. Say you know, you know, you know, you know, you know. Say you know, you know, you know, you know, you know. That I don't wanna be no general to end up being no funeral. I don't wanna be no general to end up being a funeral.
And so we come to the point wherein we have to also now speak of Rastafari within the context of this global struggle. And Rastafari has been a foundation within this plantocracy that speaks to Africa, African identity, and the whole notion of Pan-Africanism. The issue of repatriation and reparations have been at the foundation of Rastafari's thought. Reparations, of course, is topical, and it's important that we understand the importance of reparations, the psychological reparations of the broken, fractured mind, and the economic reparations that we desire and demand from those who benefited from the enslavement of our people. There's also repatriation, which is the movement out of these island spaces to the mother continent. In earlier traditions and earlier experiences, Rastafari always spoke about this as some type of mass movement. It has not unfolded in that way, but it has been implemented by individuals. Many individuals have been able to finance themselves, even groups within Rastafari have taken themselves to Ethiopia, occupied the lands of Shashimani. And so these two ideas have been strongly promoted from the 30s. Reparations and repatriation. But there's another plank that needs to be emphasized equally along with reparations and repatriation. And this plank I will call to it as redemption. There must be a plank of redemption, and redemption is all about improving and upgrading the life of the Rastafari right here in Jamaica, right on this land where they take our taxes and where I must expose ourselves to the danger of the society and the insecurities and the violence. So in the initial, Rastaman had no real interest in Jamaica. The whole focus was on repatriation. But after decades and decades and decades and generating culture and history on this island, and I must look at the realm of governance now. Because it is obvious from the 30s, Rastaman did know. So none of those two P's would have carried the African population towards in the greater state of liberation. And I, as Rastaman, did know that from the 30s. And so from the 30s, Rastaman always stay away from those two tribes and their system of governance. That Westminster model where it's a horse race and first past the post and them kind of ideas. It had nothing to do with the black population. It was about groups of families searching for who's going to be the leader and who will be the loyal opposition. But the time is now, as the globe moves towards its own direction, that Rastafari cite up the importance of dealing with governance and the rock. And the governance meaning overstanding the importance now of political power. Not the power that is fought over by the two tribal groups, but political power. And to know that political power really is empty power unless there's economics. And so I am gonna say to the item that Rastafari and Rastaman in general must begin to think economics and think more hemp than ganja. Because here I and I at a crossroads, wherein after being brutalized and suffered so much at the hands of the state and our families and friends and enemies who condemn Rastaman for associating with ganja. We see where there are no conferences and the government is now attempting to control the ganja as a product. And Rastaman seems to be get caught up into the struggle now as to who must own the rights to ganja and the medicinal pro. But I tell you, I don't say that is a smoke trail. There's a trail of smoke that will take us nowhere in terms of our economic power. Economic power lies not in the ganja as a medicinal plant, but in the hemp, in the cousin who have the money hidden in its leaves and its stalk, and which a very poor and underemployed and non-employed man can get involved in. The hemp industry. And just take a note, there's nobody really promoting hemp industry in Jamaica. It's not about the hemp, it's about the ganja, because that is what the white man can control. And claim that he's creating medicines for the benefit of whom? We want money. We want money. And money comes directly from hemp, from the hemp industry. But the government is not interested in hemp industry. They want to corner the ganja industry and trick Rastaman into stay as ganja farmers. Another form of slavery, because the ganja farmer will never be the owner of the industry. But if we travel along the route of hemp, I and I can all become owners and participants in the hemp industry. And that's why they don't promote hemp, because it is the key to liberation, economics. So once we talk about redemption as black people, as Rastafarians, we can't come with empty political talk. It has to have a economic cutting edge. And so I must begin to promote the hemp industry. Hemp industry is the key to economic liberation for black people, not just in the Caribbean, but right across the African continent, right across Caribbean and Pacific states. It's a crop that the Almighty Sun is connected to. It's the most vital plant on the planet Earth. So let us not be tricked now into the whole concept of the medicinal aspect because of our punishment for smoking it and attempt to alleviate the pressure on those who smoke. That's not the relief. The relief is when we begin to transform the hemp into money. And when money begins to be organized and spent properly and invested, we begin to talk about power. So I said to the item, this is one Rastaman who not involved in no ganja trail for medicinal purposes. And I've been doing that ever since. We want involved in the plant now for monetary purposes. Not as farmers, but as owners of the industry. How much Rastaman involved in the hemp industry so we can start produce Rasta paper, oil, cement. The list goes on. 2,500 products. And there's no one promoting and articulating the need to develop a hemp industry. We get caught up with the ganja because of the smoke. But the smoke is not bringing any money. So we have to penetrate the money if we want to deal with power. And power is only respected by those who have power. So we're not begging. We're emphasizing that there's another plank. There is reparations. There is repatriation. And there's redemption. And we want it here and now. Upon the rock. We want to have a say, the plantation is run. Because the 2Ps have proven that they are not good leaders. The 2Ps have led this country into deep economic debt. The 2Ps have led the country to the highest level of violence. So there's need for a different movement. We the People movement, Rastafari, Marcus Garvey, Black consciousness, the movement of the people.
love each other. Say you gotta live on forever. Yeah. And love one another. Boy, hold on, yeah. Yet before dishonor, I could never betray my brother. Yet before dishonor, I could never betray my color. No matter what the world's offer, enough respect to my brother. No matter what the world's offer, enough respect to my color. Go away and stay away. You ain't got no culture. Go away, stay away. You're acting like vulture. Go away, stay away. You're bow to the vulture. Go away, boy, yeah. Go away, whoa. Go away, ooh-wee. Go away, whoa. Remember what the Father said. Seek, oh well, before one of his words passed away. Yeah, oh well, the heaven and the earth I said. So start praying, the wicked will never get away. No way. Death before dishonor, I could never betray my brother. Go away.
That Maradona has been able to do, and he's hurting England again here. This is a brilliant run. It's one of the World Cup great goals.
Set.
They get away first time. Tyson Gay right alongside Usain Bolt, but here he goes, streaking away already. It's Bolt all the way. He's looking round at Gay. Watch the clock. It's goal for Bolt, and again he's done it again. A new world record for Usain Bolt. They say lightning doesn't strike twice. The world belongs to Bolt. Berlin belongs to Bolt. 9.58.
World is for your taking, and giving up is the only crime. Now written on the page
Metamorphosis, moving into the world of sports and games, what people love to play. We are at an era in our athletics where people think it's time that we rewind and come again. In this era now, we call it the post-Usain Bolt era. Where the expectations now are that who will replace Bolt? Who will replace Asafa? Who will replace Shellyan? Who are the next generation of world beaters? Well, we know that within the Jamaican framework, there's only one place to look. That's in our high school system. Because our high school system has been responsible for producing our Olympic athletes. High school, secondary school. So we also want to segue from that to the point that most of the sports in Jamaica, at the national level, the nursery for those sports are our high schools. Netball, cricket, football, athletics, etc., etc. So Jamaica holds a unusual position of being one of the few countries in the world where their sports factory really rests not at the level of club, but at the level of high school. So there is success in our athletics on that model, where a youngster can visualize himself from the primary school and the stages it would take for him to get to the high school, to get to the Olympics. Because within athletics, the ultimate is the Olympics and of course the World Games, World Championships. But the Olympics are quite consistent every 4 years, and Jamaica has been a dominant force in terms of representation vis-a-vis the size, etc., etc. So the high school is a nursery. So when we begin to look at other sports, like cricket, there has been a total breakdown in the link between the schools and the clubs. There's been a breakdown between the link between the schools and the national program. And so it goes outward into the wider spectrum of sports that the Jamaica Cricket Association can't really claim any large number of Jamaican players in the West Indian setup. And of course, that setup is a bit disorganized as we speak. But the West Indies cricket team, on its own merit, recently won a test match against England. And it was a remarkable rebound from a debacle in the first test, losing by an innings and enough runs. They were able to rebound and level the series, and it has put a lot of previous discussion on hold as we wait on holder to try to lead the team to a surprising and a shocking victory over England in the next test. So the cricket is also up and down and in and out. And it's not something to be able to follow because of the various different styles of games and the fact that the West Indies really not doing very well at the test game. And there's a lot of disgruntlement within the players, and the whole house want to pull down and fix up again. But the football knows where the drama is really manifesting itself. Because at the world level now, the World Cup qualifiers continue, and of course Jamaica no longer part of that process. But the Jamaican Reggae Boys were able to play a friendly match against Canada, ended up on the losing end 2-0. And perhaps just another stage of exposing our, what you call, local-based players to international football. And overall, we're still not sure the nature of and the status of the coach, because the coach is still working on an interim basis. What is happening at a more dynamic level is that the struggle for the presidency is very on and is hot. And it may appear that Kingston and St. Andrew may provide a winner in Stevenson as the new president of JFF. And it is a mighty task because a lot of the population is expecting this president to operate the same way as the previous president. The previous president was in the job for quite a while and even invested some of his own funds at times when there were emergencies. Well, in today's football world now, our Premier League was unable to start as scheduled because there are some persons and groups that are complaining that certain monies have not been paid to them. The Montego Bay team are unwilling to be part of the football until they get what they think is due to them. And more importantly, are just as critical, the referees have not been paid since last year. And as much as we excite ourselves about sports, if the officials don't show, there is no game. In any sport, the officials are key. And if there is a debt to the officials and they are unwilling to participate, then the football now is being held up. And perhaps this is a hangover from the Borrell regime, where Borrell had the sort of personality and charisma to be in debt and to owe people. And they would just say, yes, captain. But I think that is all over now. People want their money, and the football can't start. The football in Jamaica needs more than a Premier League. The football in Jamaica needs a technical director to streamline the football along the confederations, where each confederation could perhaps have its own technical director who would report to the national technical director what's happening in each confederation. So the development of the football should be primary, not the development of the senior team. The linkages now between the schools and the national team should be established. And I again will argue that our national team should not be the primary objective of our school players. Our school players should aim towards making the Olympic team. And the Olympic team should have its own program, where every 4 years there's an attempt to win a medal at the Olympic Games. And this result would give us a foundation for truly building a national team. So the focus should be shifted from World Cup to Olympics, that we can get the best schoolboy players channeled in the same direction. It is obvious that the club system cannot sustain the best schoolboy players. Lacking of resources, lacking of discipline, lacking of motivation. These are some of the detriments that exist in the club system. But if you can challenge our best schoolboy players collectively into an ongoing Olympic program, then within 2 Olympics, we could provide a hard, strong nucleus to challenge at the senior level. There must be a methodology, and the president of the Football Federation should be able to, if not personally articulate such an outline, should appoint a person, a technical director for the football, for the nation, that we can begin to pull from the grassroots and bring our best talents to the Olympic level and ultimately to the senior World Cup team. It's time for a revolution in football. It began with René Simoes and Captain Horace Borrell. Both are no longer here, but the seeds of revolution must continue. And we must move our schoolboy players, which, as I said earlier, there's nowhere in the world where football is developed at the schoolboy level except Jamaica. So rather than try to switch to being club-based development, we should just take the model from the athletics and begin to build and produce high school Olympians. Change the mentality, change the attitude, change the fortunes of our football. Metamorphosis.
This is no fantasy. This is reality. keeps on reaping what I sow. That ain't right now. Who is the one I'd like to know? Won't you tell me now, now? Someone keeps on reaping what I sow. That ain't right now. Who is the one I'd like to know? Do you think it is an easy thing to be out there working when the sun is burning? Oh, the rain is falling. Then comes another man stealing all of my pumpkins, my yams and my plantains, in everything that I am growing. Ooh, wow, wow, wow. Someone keeps on reaping what I sow. That ain't right now. Who is the one I'd like to know? Oh, my people, I'm in pain and misery. There is a parasite taken away from me. This is no fantasy, this is reality. This is what someone keeps on doing to me. Someone keeps on reaping what I sow. That ain't right now. Who is the one I'd like to know? Won't ya tell me now, now? Someone keeps on reaping what I sow. That ain't right now. Who is the one I'd like to know? Do you think it is the right thing that you are doing? Why don't you grow your own garden and stop your stealing? You can never keep on hiding from the one within, the one who keeps on watching everything that you are doing. Ooh, oh, 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 oh. Someone keeps on reaping what I sow. That ain't right now. Who is the one I'd like to know? Won't you tell me now, now? Someone keeps on reaping what I sow. That ain't right now. Who is the one I'd like to know? Oh, my people, I'm in pain and misery. There is a parasite taken away from me.
STYLZ FM again. Want to heal up all the taxi drivers in Port Antonio. All the man them will move from that square and take the people everywhere. I want to heal up all the St. Thomas bus drivers. Heal up Grabber and Bigger and Taros and Camille and Carl and Denzel and some man I don't even mention yet. But the next time around, heal up all Gogo and Tete and why the man have some name. Doctors. And heal up all the ones them along the Ken Jones Highway. Yeah, yeah. Great to meet you, Amira. Family. Heal up the people the Virgin in Canewood. And in Berrydale. Heal the man them. Seeing? And of course, West Portland. Further East Portland, Long Road, Happy Grove. Over into St. Thomas there, Hampton Court. Marant Bay. So, St. Thomas, larger than life. The parish of Paul Bogle. Hail all the people in Portland. Big up the people of Nanny Town. And in St. Mary, people of Taki. And down in Garvey Land, St. Anne's. Of course, Mark over in Spain Town, Osa border, St. Catherine. People in Mandeville and Manchester and these St. Elizabeth and these other places on the island. So give thanks that you are linked to us. And hail up those who are off the island, in the Northern Plantation, the States of America, in Canada, Toronto, in the US of A, all the various states where you are enduring and trying to find your own solution. We hail the people on the African continent. We hail the people in Kenya. And hope you have a peaceful re-election. We hail the people in the UK. Empress Garrow. And of course, in the community of Harborview, hail up to ones and ones who listen to STYLZ FM. So, it's been another edition of the Metamorphosis. And of course, give thanks to the engineer, Cassidy, for making the thing flow. And we say the world is on edge. And black people must relax and reflect upon our story and where we are now and how we intend to progress as a unit. So, yeah, Rastafari, live. Peace and prosperity unto each eye. Positive relations in the family, in the business, in the schools. People are in a new semester, new term. Just stay positive. Use the libraries. Use the various devices of study and recall. And combine with physical fitness, high achievements, get the grades so you can advance at the individual level and therefore move the collective. So, Iman Blak saying, give thanks, peace unto the eye, and the eye, Rastafari.
Cast away your troubles, I say, just for a moment or a day, yeah. Guiding I eternally. Guide, it's the voice that sets me free. Guide, whispering inside of me. Guide, I feel peace and harmony. Our inner voice, hey, it guides us along the way, yeah. In the night, oh yeah, this I heard it say. Lift up your heart, take it to the higher plane, yeah. Where there is joy, there is no more pain. Guiding I eternally. Guide, it's the voice that sets me free. Guide, whispering inside of me. Guide, I feel peace and harmony.
This is STYLZ 96.1, the People Station.
just to get by. My friends and my environment sometimes may do me wrong.